Until then, my worldview very much was you get a job when you grow up and you get married and then you have kids. And that's just, it's not a matter of desire or wanting to,
Mm.
not wanting to. And just reading that one essay was so transformational to me. It struck me as like, oh my God, people make these choices. Like, this is a choice. It is actually something you can decide to do or not do.
This is the Bad Mothers Podcast, where we dive deep into our maternal urges, or lack thereof. We talk about the mothers we left or who left us, and whether they haunt our own choices about having children. I'm excited to share this new episode of Bad Mothers because it's my first speaking to a fellow child-free person. I've noticed that many people assume the reason I don't have children is due to my fraught or non-existent relationship with my mother. It's a reasonable thing to think, so I wanted to meet more women who were child-free and estranged. Were they, like me, never really inclined to have children, or have their mothers played a role in some way? My guest today, Aarti, has not stopped contact with her mother, but she lives very far away. Aarti's in the US and her mother lives in India. They have a complicated and distant relationship. Many of Aarti's experiences as an adolescent have contributed to her decision to not have children. But as she explains, her choice is also related to how she'd like to live her life and her awareness that we don't live in an equal society. In many ways, Aarti has moved beyond her mother's more traditional expectations for her, both in terms of being a woman, but also being an Indian woman. And her fruitless struggle to be known by her mother in spite of these differences, I think, will be familiar for many of us. If you're going through something similar, I hope this conversation offers you some support. In this episode, we discuss being child-free, ways to incorporate children into your life if you want to, the myth of a carefree or careless estrangement, setting healthy boundaries, the responsibility of caregiving, finding balance in romantic relationships, especially when we carry a lot of emotional baggage, cultural expectations, narcissistic mothers, hyper-independence. We cover a lot in this hour. If you have any feedback, you can reach me at monicacardenas@substack.com. So maybe can you start by telling us a bit about your current status with your mom now? And I know you said you have low contact, or it's complicated. So have you ever been no contact with her, or do you think that that might be a necessary step in the future?
Sure. So a bit of important context is that I live in a different country now than my parents. I have moved, I've left my country about a decade and a half ago at this point.
Will you
Uh,
tell us where you're from?
I'm from India. I'm born and raised in India. I now live in the United States. Um, I moved here in 2012. So it's been quite a while. Um, and prior to that, I always lived at home. So I was, even through college, I was living with my parents. So there was really no opportunity to address our relationship other than how it had been before. But moving abroad and gaining some independence was really eye-opening for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think there was just a natural separation that happened because of that. there was always this thing of my mother wanting to know every aspect of my life, and then somehow those things would get weaponized against me at various points. So being away from home meant I could share what I wanted to and not share what I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, it's just come to a place of me being in contact. So we speak, maybe we text often. We don't really speak on the phone as often, I think, as my parents would like. Um, and we see each other maybe once a year. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and those meetings are a bit fraught always. Like there's always like conflict and arguments, and so I don't feel the need to have more connection with,
Mm-hmm.
especially with my mom, than I do right now.
And what sort of conflict do you experience?
um I think as of present day, my lifestyle choices have been completely different than what she has chosen or what she would have liked for me. uh,
Okay.
she's a very traditional Indian woman, very much raised in that whole women are meant to be homemakers and they're meant to raise children, and that's the whole realm that you live in. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I was ever inclined towards that. I've always been very, um, I don't know, daydreamy and kind of lost in my own world and very like content within myself. Um, So as I've grown up, one of the things was I started dating people, which was not really allowed when I was a teenager, and that came as a shock. So from that time with my mom, it's been like, why are you such a rebel, and why are you so? Why do you always have to do things contrary to what you should be doing?
Mm-hmm.
So now I think the conflict really comes from the fact that she keeps saying she is afraid of me or how I respond. But I think the afraid part is just me asserting my boundaries and sticking to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like someone who is like, I do lose my temper, but I'm not someone who is like aggressive in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But she said this to me many times, that she lives in fear that I will say something in a sharp manner and then she won't know how to respond. So
Hmm.
I have not tried to investigate it beyond, I'm just trying to tell you how I want to live.
Mm-hmm. So how is it that you are establishing those boundaries that she doesn't like? Is it just the distance? Would she prefer that you live closer to home?
I think so. When I was applying for graduate school, which is why I came to the United States back in 2012, my father was very supportive of this. He's always been supportive of my career, and he's been very much a driving force in me being academically inclined. My mother always was proud of my achievements in the sense that she would talk about it to other people. But when it came to me using those achievements as a way to be myself,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where she was like, no, 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 be achieving, but not in this way. So when I actually was thinking of applying for grad school, and I was solely looking at the United States. I was looking at some places in Europe. I was going to leave India.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she was not happy about it. She was very much like, she never articulated what exactly it was that made her not support me so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it was mostly like, well, you'll go abroad, you will live this different lifestyle, and who knows what will happen. Um, Eventually she had to like come to terms with it because I was very adamant and I was very certain. I needed to leave India and leave the society I'd grown up in
Mm-hmm.
because it had started to feel very stifling. Um, so I think
Mm-hmm.
now her constant complaint is I don't call enough, I don't tell her the details of my life, I'm not as communicative. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she's never clearly said what the expectations are. Like, I want you to move back, I want you to do XYZ. Because anytime I ask her for concrete answers, it is I don't want to say anything because you will just react, and then I get scared of how you will react. So it's like,
Mm. So it really makes it impossible for you to have any kind of resolution to this conflict,
yeah,
if you don't know what it is that she wants, or if the thing that she might want is for you to change how you want to live your life,
yeah,
which isn't fair.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And I think what you described is a little bit like what I think a lot of people I've spoken to who are estranged experience. Although your experience is a bit different because I think it has some cultural roots to it. But generally, what I've noticed is that adult children and mothers in particular will become estranged, or their relationship will grow more fraught if the mother is demanding of her daughter's um, time, and has expectations around how she lives her life, or really just moving on into a new stage. I know with one other guest I spoke to, part of the problem can be when your focus changes. Um, in in my last episode, we talked to your own mother, and she explained how having her own children and having that focus in her life was part of the divide that she experienced with her mom, because she couldn't give as much attention to her mother anymore. She couldn't take care of her mother because she had her own children to take care of. And I think I experienced something similar, when I grew up and had more other interesting things to do outside the house, that created some conflict. So I think there's some similarities that other people, even, Westerners, might experience along those lines, but maybe it's a bit um, even more complicated for you when you have maybe a mother who is like what I described, and there are these cultural expectations.
Yeah, I think for my generation there is this piece of a lot of us are unlearning like our cultural baggage that comes
Mm-hmm.
from growing in a society that's very collectivist. It's very rooted in family systems and keeping the status quo, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is great because it gives you a built-in social system and like support in difficult times and a place to land if your family is like accepting and you fit in with them. But that same thing can be so alienating if you are in any way like not falling in line with all of the expectations, which I think
Mm-hmm.
as a younger person, as a child, I was very much um, driven to be that way. I was always looking to be the non-problem child. I wanted to like keep things smooth and happy at home.
I think so many of us can relate to wanting to maintain a balance at home and feeling that responsibility. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Um, my younger sister has had health issues since she was born. So there was a lot of stress in the household from
Mm-hmm.
managing her conditions, making sure she's taken care of, making sure her needs are met. Um, And I remember being very cognizant from a young age of the fact that I have to not add on to those burdens, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which meant I became hyper independent very early. Um, but then once my sister was kind of a little more, had more independence from my mom, my mother started to realize that I was not as dependent on her anymore. I was starting to be like, I had my own friends. I would make plans with them, and she would not let me go do those things with my friends.
Mm.
Um, I think that was my earliest realization of her being like, friends are not going to be there for you. Your family is. So you have to focus on your family. And I was, as a teenager, very confused about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. But it's also the, I think that's a cultural thing as well, that women are meant to focus on the home. And as a young girl, you are meant to focus on the home and like
Mm-hmm.
be available to your parents to help them with whatever they ask you to do. Be available to your extended family if they need help with anything, or you're supposed to be there as like the daughter and the caretaker.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's around my adolescence is when my mom started to kind of have this push pull relationship with me, where she
Mm-hmm.
was suddenly like, "You're not as affectionate as your sister. You're not as," and she said this to me very directly a few times, which um, I think has been a source of deep hurt for me. Um, and I was much younger, she once said to me, in the middle of me taking care of her, I was making food, making sure she's fed and my sister's fed, and then I was going to go for my classes or something. And my mother just says, "You know, you do all these things for us. It's not out of love. I just feel like you do them out of duty, and it's not out of like a sense of
Mm-hmm.
affection. And that's really a horrible way to treat your family." Um, and I remember feeling I'm still confused. Like I still try to reconcile that moment and the other things when I felt like I was doing them out of, sure, there was a sense of duty,
Mm-hmm.
supposed to make sure my sister is fed and my mom is fed when she's sick,
Mm-hmm.
but the duty comes out of love, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in that statement, isn't there? Because so much of what women are expected to do as quote women's work is expected to be done out of love, of this inherent desire to care for people. Um, when maybe we want to do other things, and in fact, those responsibilities are things we do out of a sense of duty, and maybe it would be unfair to insist that you feel a different way about it than you naturally do, right? And I think, I mean, I use that term naturally on purpose because, as I said, those jobs we're expected to want to do naturally, and I don't think that is true for every woman in the world. So to insist that you feel another way about it is just another way of upholding those expectations, enforcing those expectations on you.
Yeah, I've it just fell in terms of my mom specifically. She has a tendency to be um to overstate how much she does for us. And I don't know if she meant it that way when she would say these things, but it was always, "You guys are such a burden on me because I have to do these things, and I do them because I love you, but you really wear me down."
Mm.
Uh, and it was always like, okay, why do you do them then? Why
Mm-hmm.
is it like you are choosing to do it, and yet like there is this expectation of gratitude or this.
Yeah.
outsized gratitude, because I don't think we were ungrateful. Um,
Right.
there was always this thing of like, y- no matter what you do, you express love or you don't. Um, it's not enough. It's never gonna match up to what I have been doing for you out of this
Mhm.
maternal love and this desire to be maternal towards you.
Mhm.
And I think seeing that and the kind of tension my mother felt or seemed to express without understanding it really made me question, like, do I feel like I can be this way? Like, can I be sacrificial in this manner and still be like not resentful of people? Because I was like 13, 14, 15,
Mhm.
already a caretaker to my sister, already managing these difficult situations with my mom and with other family members that she had conflict with.
Mhm.
And I was resentful already. I was like, I don't want to be put in this position.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's so you said when you reached out to me that you don't have children and you've decided not to. Um how do you think those early experiences have played into that choice? Do you think that that has played a role? The responsibility you had for your sister and seeing the sacrifices your mother made, or the fact that she, portrayed them as a as a burden, it sounds like. Has that had a has that weighed in on your decision?
um, I think initially not so much. I remember reading this article when I was like 23 or 24, and it was about this woman who had decided to be child free by choice. It was just an essay where she was talking about her choices and deciding not to have children and how that was liberating in a way. And I read that, and until then, my worldview very much was you get a job when you grow up and you get married and then you have kids. And that's just, it's not a matter of desire or wanting to,
Mm,
not wanting to. And just reading that one essay was so transformational to me. It struck me as like, oh my God, people make these choices. Like, this is a choice. It is actually something you can decide to do or not do. And so at that time, I was more so like, I think I would like to live for myself. And um, over the years, over the last 10 years or so, I've sort of unpacked why I felt like not having kids would be freeing. And um, I do think it has something to do with the sense of responsibility I felt for a long time. I still feel responsible for my sister, and now that my parents are aging, I feel responsible towards them
mhm,
as well. Um, and I think after a point, I felt burnt out, just being like, okay, you are going to need to manage if things go wrong. If something happens with your sister, that she's not able to like keep working, and like she can't, and she's married now. She's married. She's
mhm,
living her life, but I still have this sense of, no, if something happens with her, it's going to be me that has to step up.
mhm,
Um, and so I think I've always felt like I've already have so many people to like take care of, and like even though not actively, I just knowing that it's there. I didn't want to add on more people,
mhm,
and just realizing my energy levels when I'm around children also played a role. Like
mhm,
uh, I would get tired and I would get like, I need a break from you guys now, like my
mhm,
younger cousins or like children of my cousins or whatever.
mhm,
Like I enjoyed being around them, but it was like after a couple of hours, I just didn't have that thing of like, oh my God, it's a baby. I want to just be around the baby all the time. Um, and I was like, maybe these are all clues. Maybe this is all like pointing to the fact that
Hmm.
even if it is my child, I will be like, I will want to get away from it. And oh my God, won't I be judged as a horrible mother if I did that? Um, I just was like, I cannot live up to whatever this high bar of motherhood
Mm. Yeah, interesting.
constantly put forth. And I'm supposed to do it joyously. I'm supposed to be happy to like diminish my own identity and be mother, you know.
You're right.
Um,
That's
and
really interesting. I think that's definitely lots of books have come out in recent years talking about that unrealistic expectation for mothers, and not just in what they're expected to do, but how they're expected to feel, just immediately and constantly adoring toward their children when there must be frustrating moments. So I wonder, because you said so much of that expectation was part of your decision not to have kids, do you think if our culture was different, if those expectations weren't there, if we, treated mothers like regular people who are flawed sometimes, um, do you think that that would change your mind one way or the other, or are there, too many other factors?
um, well, maybe if our world was completely different. I honestly I'm having so much trouble even imagining like mothers being treated the same as fathers, for example. Like
Mm-hmm.
the worst a father can do is like be absent, and anything else beyond that is like, oh, he's just working all the time. Like, what do you expect him to do? He's not going
Mm-hmm.
to be there to raise the kids because he's out making money or whatever. That's why he's not engaged with the children. But for the mom, it's like, oh, you put your child down to go have a nap? Like, oh my God, how could you do that?
Yeah.
You are prioritizing this work trip over your child's recital. I just feel like I'm having so much trouble when you ask me this question of if those expectations were different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to frame it like what would that even look like, and I'm coming up blank.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
think that's absolutely fair. I mean, I'm asking you to imagine a world that doesn't exist yet, but
yeah,
it's curious to me because there's so much concern now about the falling birth rate and what we're going to do about it, for economic reasons, which I'm not convinced of, but that's a different conversation. And we see these countries around the world implementing policies to better support families and mothers, which I think is wonderful and we should do across the board. But those policies aren't really making great changes to the birth rate. It's not making a big difference in women's decisions to have kids. So I think, one, there are probably lots of women in the world who just don't want kids. And it's as simple as that. And the other thing is that even with all of these policies, it isn't shifting our cultural expectations of mothers and mothers versus fathers, yet. Maybe over many years with these policies, things will turn. But for now, I think you're right that the responsibility and the expectation is always on the mother, and the father just sort of gets a pass.
yeah. And I think that that plays a bigger role for me because I am a career oriented person. I worked hard, spent a decade in grad school, getting where I am today. Um, and I feel like if I were to decide tomorrow that okay, we should have kids, I, no matter how supportive my partner is, no matter how much he is about sharing the load and doing our part and those kind of things, it's still me that has to go through the physical act of
Mhm.
being pregnant and giving birth, and then who knows what consequences that has.
Mhm.
Um, there's all these health issues that come up during and after pregnancy. There is that one piece of like, do I want to
Mhm.
put my body through something like that? But there's also the part of I will never be separate from the child. Like that is going to be like so intertwined in every.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like I have this sense of responsibility that I would feel guilty making
Yeah.
choices that are not putting my kids first if I did have them.
Yeah.
And that has to do probably with a lot of the conditioning I've received from childhood. Um,
Mhm.
but at this point, it's just part and parcel of my psyche. So it's like, I don't think I could be any different. And me choosing to not have children is more to do with I am very tied to my identity as an individual, and I'm maybe selfishly not ready to dilute it. The
Yeah.
max dilution I've allowed in my life is marriage and
Yeah.
being tied to another person and being okay. I can build a life with this person.
Mhm. Yeah, I relate to that a lot actually. I think so much of our choice about whether to have kids or not can come down to our, as you said, our psyche or our personality. I mean, for me, I really require a lot of time to myself,
Mhm.
and that wouldn't be possible with a child. And I'm aware that there are probably millions of mothers in the world who feel the same way I do about having time alone, and they've made that sacrifice, and I commend them for doing that. Um, but I think it's fine to selfishly, as you said, decide I don't want to do that, right? It's not, there's nothing wrong with being selfish about how I myself live my life. I mean, I think that's one thing we're meant to be selfish about. Um, and I suppose, the problem around us is that we expect mothers and women generally to be unselfish people, to serve others, to be the caretakers, and it's overcoming that identity that is the problem with
Mm.
or the complication for being someone who decides not to have children.
Um, my mom has at various points been like, oh, I know your generation kind of leans towards like dating and finding your own partner, but I would really like for us to choose a husband for you, um, like through the arranged marriage system. And I've always pushed back against that. Even when I was younger, I was like, but what is so bad if I like someone and I want to spend time with them? What is so wrong about it? And she hated being asked questions. She hated being asked the why and the what of it all. And she would be like, we never ask these questions to our parents. Why do you have so much? Why can't you just accept that this is what your parents are saying to you? This is what your mother is saying to you. And you just agree with it and you stay quiet. And I was like, because I have questions though.
Yeah.
Um, and then I remember again when I was like 25 and I was deciding to go into a PhD program, or I had started my PhD program, and my mother suddenly realized that that meant, excuse me, I would be in school for another 4 or 5 years at minimum. And she was like, oh my God, does that mean you're going to stay in this small little town in the US? Who's going to move there to marry you and be with you? Or can you move elsewhere? When will you get married? You're already 25. And I was like, whoa, okay. Not anywhere on my horizon right now.
Hmm.
It will happen when it will. And then from that conversation, gradually, when I was 28, 29, by that time it started becoming like emotional blackmail. It was like, well, XYZ, my cousin's daughter is getting married. She's 3 years younger than you, and here you are still single and not even trying to find somebody. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
why can't you just get married and do this for your parents? Why can't you do this for us? But she was so like tied into the fact that my life choices reflect on who she is as a parent, that it
Right.
was immediately like, no, 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 you cannot choose this, you cannot be choosing this. And then it would be like angry outbursts, it would be blackmailing me, like this is going to be such a burden to have an unmarried 30-year-old daughter. And I was like, I don't know, I think life's going to turn out okay, I'm very happy with myself. um even though I wasn't, like I was struggling in grad school, like getting to the end of my degree, etc. But I was still like, I have a fulfilling life and I don't need to be married. I don't need to have all of this stuff that you think I should have to feel happy. And she would just not buy it. She would just not. She's like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm.
You'll be older and you'll be alone, and that's when you'll realize like how important it is to have a partner, have children. Like your life will feel empty if you don't have those things. Um,
Have you told your mother that you aren't having children? Does she know?
Goodness, that was a whole thing. I think it still is. Um, we had this one major argument over the phone, because most of our arguments would happen over the phone since we lived in different countries. And that's why I would just get this anxiety when I would see her phone call pop up on the phone. I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no. And she was like, everything has to happen at the right time. And you are getting so close to 30 and there's no engagement on the horizon either. And I got just sick and tired of hearing this everything has to happen at the right time line that was thrown at me all the time. I was like, okay, I think I can assume here you mean I need to get married in time so I have children in time. Like my biological clock, quote unquote, is ticking, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, that is part of it. And I was like, okay, so let's just, put this, I'll just put this out there. Even if I get married next month, there's going to be no children. Like I do not want to have kids. Um, I'm that's just never, even if I'd gotten married 5 years ago, you wouldn't have I wouldn't have kids today. Um, and she was just silent for a bit, and then she was like, how can you decide that on your own? Um, that is not something you decide on your own in this selfish manner. And I was,
That you would need to consult with your future husband or
that's
with
what I
her.
assumed. That's what I assumed is like, what about your partner, right? So I was like, well, whomever I marry has to be on the same page about it, obviously. So that is also a big factor against me going into the whole arranged marriage thing, because people are generally very much by the book about it. You get married and then you have kids. Um, and she was like, no, no, I mean, what about, like, we want grandchildren. And is, is it really your decision by yourself? Does my input not matter to you? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that would work out, because I was like, it would still involve me having children and raising them. And I was like, no, I have decided this.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember she didn't speak to me for a few months after that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she still has this, whenever it does come up, um, it she has this like sadness that she will express to me. And I there is no space for my emotions there. There is no space for me to be. Do you realize how sad I feel that my mother is not on board with things I want to do? She doesn't understand my decisions. She doesn't understand why I choose to live like this. And there's just no space to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, well, I will never have grandchildren, and I keep seeing my peers having grandchildren, and that's just, and she tears up. She cries very easily, so it becomes
Mm-hmm.
a whole
Another burden for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she's come to terms with it, but me having gotten married recently has been like a calming factor, I think.
Mm.
Until that point, I don't know what her mentality was, but me having gotten married has changed a lot of things. I think she sees me as a legitimate adult now, which previously there was a lot of second guessing of any choice I made. It was just,
Mm.
are you sure? Have you thought this through? Etc. Now it's more so like less of a
Mhm.
pushback.
And I expect she might think that you will change your mind at some point in the future about having children.
Um, my husband has been very upfront too that he doesn't want kids. So I think,
Toward your mother, he's told
yeah,
her that.
yeah.
Ah, okay.
So that was one of the things my partner and I bonded over during our initial
Mm-hmm.
days of dating was, oh, I don't think I want kids. And then he was like, neither do I. And it was
Mm.
like, the angels singing in the background. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've met a guy who has been so clear on the fact that he does not want kids. Usually,
Yeah.
my experience was there would be, oh, okay, like it's so odd for me to bring up the fact that I don't want kids.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, how did you decide that? Like, the most I got was curiosity from my
Mm-hmm.
parents, and then the response would be, I do think I want kids. I mean, it's so fulfilling to have children and raise children. And I was like, what do you know about raising children?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you taken care of young children before? Was that something that you did as a as an Indian male raised in
Mm.
my generation? I don't think so. Um, so meeting my husband was a very um, affirming thing because he was also like, I think I want to live my life for myself, and I have all these things. I want to travel. I want to like do whatever I want whenever I want.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he's also expressed that to my parents, and I think they
Okay.
take
So
things
they might.
more easily than they do mine.
I want to go back to something you said about how it's hard for you to know that you have a mother who doesn't make space for your feelings about this in particular, and I assume probably other things. Um, because one of the things I think is important to talk about is that even if we are estranged or low contact, um, often I think the media will portray us as being, selfish or careless, um, not worrying or caring about how our parents feel or how estrangement might be hurting them. Um, but it is a really painful thing for us as the adult children to go through. Even if, I mean, in my case, I know that this is the best scenario I could ask for is to not have contact with my mother, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It's never been easy, and it's always there are moments where even 20 years later, it's still really difficult. And you still, I still experience, missing my mom, or that some kind of maternal figure. Um, so how are you navigating that? And um, do you ever, since you do have contact with your mom, I guess, do you ever have nice moments like that?
So there are nice moments where we'll have a meal together, or we'll maybe cook together. Um, we've traveled together in the recent years, and while that has been difficult for the most part, it has also been like uh, the few moments of, oh, look at this beautiful place we are at, and then there's a bit of connection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but over the years, there's also been just a complete disregard of how I feel in any moment. Um, so anytime, whether when I was younger or as an adult, I would share any difficulty. I would say this one thing is happening, and I'm struggling with it, or I made a mistake. Immediately, the focus of the emotion is on her. It's like, oh, I made you feel like you aren't important in this family, which has happened when I was younger. I would ask for like I asked for a bunk bed once, and when I was much younger, I really loved bunk beds. And my mom was like, no, we can't afford it. It's not suited to your sister, and it won't work for us. And I let it go because that was my thing of like, okay, let's not make this challenging. Let's not insist.
Mm-hmm.
Few years later, my sister grows up, asks for a bunk bed. Immediately, we get a bunk bed. Um, then a few more years, and I'm elated. I'm happy. I have the upper bunk. I can retreat into that little corner, and it's the best thing ever. Um, a few more years go by, and my sister's like, I'm done with the bunk bed. And my parents are like, okay, maybe we get rid of it. And I remember this afternoon conversation. My mom was like, what kind of bed should we get instead of the bunk bed? And I was like, it's really strange. I don't want to get rid of the bunk bed. I really like having it. But I guess because my sister now wants to get rid of it, you're gonna do that because what she wants is more important than what I want. And I said this in a very matter of fact, stating the situation kind of in a
Mm-hmm.
way. I think it triggered some guilt in my mother because she immediately broke down crying, and she was like, you're right, I have been so neglectful, I've been a bad mother to you. And then me realizing that, okay, this is something I should feel bad about. Me feeling bad about my needs and wants not being met is not a healthy thing for me. Instead of me addressing that, or her addressing it with me, it became me comforting my mother that no, no,
Yeah.
no, you're not a bad mother. You have
Yeah.
all these. Of course, my sister's needs come first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's been a pattern throughout. Like, anytime I've expressed fear, anger, uh, just uncertainty, it's
Yeah.
always, oh my God, what am I gonna do now that you have this issue? You've never
Mm-hmm.
had issues like this. And then I have to be like, okay, it's fine, it's fine. I will take care of it, or this is what I plan to do.
Yeah.
So there's never space for me to even express like I'm struggling. And then one of her chief complaints with me is that I don't share difficult things with her. And she's like, I want to have a sweet mother-daughter relationship with you, and you just never want to do that. And I was like, what do you think that looks like? Do you know what
Mm.
that looks like? Like, I've asked
Yeah.
her, what does that look like to you? If I share something unpleasant, is that a mother-daughter relationship you want?
Mm.
If you want me to be happy and like constantly like, oh my mom, I love you so much, you want that? Because that's never been me.
Yeah.
But even when I share difficult things or I say you've hurt me, your response is you don't understand what I was going through, and you don't get that it was difficult for me to act in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you don't know how much I get it was difficult for you. So for me
Right.
to even share that, that thing you said was hurtful, and I know you said it out of a sense of being like stressed, being frustrated, it still was difficult as a child to hear you say you don't think I love you,
Mm.
you don't think I'm affectionate. Yeah,
I think
so
those things that maybe our parents say in passing and don't think a lot about, sometimes they really stick with us and can be really problematic. It's especially if it is telling us something about how our parents perceive us entirely
yeah.
incorrectly, right?
And I, for the long, even now, like this is a theme in me seeking therapy over and over. I'm not convinced I am a loving person.
Mm.
It's really formed um this unshaking belief in me that I in fact don't express affection, and I'm not, and that makes me feel like I'm not a normal person sometimes, like, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm not affectionate.
Mm.
um and then I have to like actually sit down and make notes about times when I have expressed affection, or I'll ask my husband now, like, hey, do you think I'm like not affectionate? Do you think I should be expressing love and care more? And he's just puzzled. He's like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Um, but
Mm.
I don't, and that is the piece I've wanted to address with my mom of like, you said these things to me when I was younger, and that really damaged me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still think in the same way? Like, do you still think I am like not loving, not
Mm.
affectionate, etc.?
Yeah.
And me just trying to bring up the fact that she might have said something hurtful when I was younger, it sent her into this, you always criticize me and I'm always the problem. And
Mm.
um, where is my where is my apology for what I have gone through? And it's like, I'm always the one that apologized. I'm always
Yeah.
the repairing person.
Mm.
So any shift from that of me being like, maybe it should be reciprocal now. If you want
Yeah.
a close relationship, it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's just I need you to be the sweet, loving daughter who expresses positivity and love and optimism.
Mm.
And
And that's so unfair to you because you're living with this idea of what your mother thinks about you or what you worry might be true. And probably all you need is for her to say, I didn't mean that when I said it. I'm sorry. You are a loving person. I mean, that could make a huge difference to you. But if it's not something she's willing to do, where do you go from there?
I think a lot of my ways of like evading help and feeling guilty, like I carry a lot of guilt for who even knows for what things,
Mm.
but like there is a lot of guilt, and a lot of just, no, if there's a problem, I have to figure it out myself. I have to just retreat within myself and do this on my own. So even being perceived by my partner who I live with as, okay, you're having a rough day, let me cook dinner and bring it to you. And immediately I set into a panic of like, oh my God, he's gonna feel like I'm such a burden. I'm gonna
Mm.
drive him away. Um, and I realize it's because anytime I would express some need from my mom, I was treated like that. I was treated like, why are you having this need right now? It's so inconvenient.
Mm.
And um, it was always irritation. It was always like, oh my God, now one more thing to
Yeah. Yeah.
look into. And I was like, I wish there was like a deprogramming I could go through, because this is so
Yeah.
difficult to
That
like.
seems like a common theme, that hyper independence. That I mean, I definitely have experienced that, and it's been revelatory for me to let my partner look after me sometimes, or solve a problem that I have, or like you said, just make dinner on a rough day, or whatever it is. Still, after several years, it's still amazing to me that someone else is sorting things out for me. It's such a new feeling. Um, and I think, yeah, it's all down to growing up, spending my whole life feeling like everything was my responsibility to fix, even other people's problems in my family, right? And yeah, deprogramming yourself, I think, takes a long time, and I'm still not convinced it's possible. Because I still feel so appreciative when someone else does something for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's ever gonna the novelty of that hasn't worn off yet. So we'll see.
That's a good way to phrase it. Like the realization someone else is like there to have your back. Yeah, I mean, I extend that courtesy to others so much.
Mm-hmm.
I am the friend that people reach out to when they want to share, vent, talk through some
Mm-hmm.
people. And I'm never the friend that's reaching out and talking about
Mm.
things.
Yeah.
I've realized that that part has made me a bad friend too, is like me not being vulnerable with people that clearly care for me. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the pieces of this whole problem, which I I hope, I wish my relationship with my mother changes or it becomes closer. But I don't think it will really. I
Yeah.
think it will take either a lot of just me clamping down on what comes up for me in talking to her, or it'll take this monumental shift in how she views herself and how she views our
Mm.
relationship. I One of them is not possible for me to control. The other one I don't want to do, which is like me being like, no, I can clamp down my feelings like I used to 20 years ago.
Right.
But I think my intention in working on these behavioral things, lack of relying on others, is to keep a close relationship with my friends and my partner. Uh,
Mm.
my partner actually shared this with me. He's like, I feel like you don't trust me to take care of things. And I was like, it's not that at all. It's
Yeah.
not at all how I perceive you or your ability. It's me being like, how do I shrink myself into the smallest entity so I don't take up so much space in your life? And
Mm.
um, I think just articulating that to myself was quite heartbreaking, to be like, I don't want that from others in my life, do I? Um,
Right. Right.
then why do I want that for me?
Right.
Um, and I
Mm.
have a lot of empathy for my mother as well because I know that's how she's lived a lot,
Mm-hmm.
feeling like she has to shrink herself and be like available to others.
Right.
Um, I think part of the outbursts that come out towards me are because of that overwhelming sense of
Yeah. Yeah, I think that cycle is so hard to break. And I mean, you having a different life than she had and that she expected for you. Um, I think that is part of breaking that cycle, ending the that expectation. Um, but I think inevitably it drives a wedge, especially if she doesn't recognize the pain that maybe she's feeling from making herself small, as you said, taking up less space. If I guess if she doesn't see it that way, then she'll never see why you want something different.
yeah, I think it's become like a protective mechanism for her to wear that as a badge of honor.
Mm,
Look how far I can self-sacrifice to take care of my family and to take care of my husband and take care of my kids.
mm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
it's become such a part of her identity to be the caretaker, the caregiver.
mm-hmm,
And I really wish she had had a different life. I really feel for the young child that she was and
mm,
the young woman that she was. And
mm-hmm,
so that also is why I would feel like another level of guilt just going no contact with her, even though I have contemplated it many times.
mm-hmm.
Um, I think my goal is to keep as cordial of a relationship as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's her become her goal as well, which has ended up with us not talking about difficult things at all. Um,
Yeah,
does not lend itself to a close relationship. But
I think yeah, that guilt is inescapable. Um I feel it too. I also wish that my mother had a different life. I know hers was difficult. I know that she struggled, but for me I just decided, you know, while I feel for her, I can't also sacrifice my well-being. I can't let that just continue to carry on. Um so I made a different sacrifice, right? The sacrifice is living with the guilt, um, but knowing that it's not as bad as the alternative. So it's definitely a balance for sure. And I think, yeah, that's something that all of us just need to weigh is how much conflict or animosity or anxiety are you can you manage versus the guilt that comes from estrangement.
I think that is the part I've not seen talked about when people talk about estrangement from family. Um, in most cases, you do feel empathy for
Mm-hmm.
person that your parent is or like whomever you're estranged with. In most cases, that does bring all this guilt and like you are dealing with it almost all the time.
Yeah.
And I think the framing of like, oh, you are just selfish to not keep up with the relationship, and it's like, no, it's I am also diminishing a part of me to be estranged in this manner. Like I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
like carrying that burden. It's not that I have now stopped talking to my family and I am completely rid of whatever the
Yeah.
emotions are. They're always difficult and they're there with you.
Mm.
Um, whether it's even anger, if you feel anger towards your family, which I think a lot of us have the right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That's a burden as well. Yeah.
Um, and I wish it was like a little less reductive and like prescriptive of, well, just do this. Just think of
Mm.
it as your parents and like they did the best. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
I know they did the best. I saw it. I was there. I was there,
Mm.
front row seat to all of the choices that were being made, in many cases, which were conveyed to me in detail. But at the same time, it's like, but won't you think of the 8-year-old that was being told in detail how their
Yeah.
father has hurt their mother, and now you're in this place of, am I supposed to choose one of them? Am I supposed
Right.
to take sides? How do I repair this? Because I don't want either my mom or my dad to hurt. Uh,
Right.
and then you are in your 28-year-old self, but that 8-year-old is still inside you,
Yeah.
carrying that guilt of, maybe if I had intervened back then, their relationship would be different. And it's like, it's really not your responsibility.
Right. Right. But it's so difficult to unlearn that if that's what you knew since you were a child. Yeah.
And then you constantly are trying to fix things. And
Yeah.
it's a very exhausting way to live.
I appreciate you talking to me, and I really there's so much of what you said that I think others will relate to, and that I've already seen as a pattern in many of the people that I've spoken to. That sense of responsibility and the guilt and the feeling like a burden. And I think it's interesting to hear how that has affected your choice to not have children, but not entirely. It seems, we can't, it doesn't sound like you would put down your choice not to have kids as entirely based on, your family life or how you grew up.
What did weigh into it was the realization that while everybody that is planning to have children is hoping, is like working towards it, you don't know who your child is going to be, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what struggles that might bring.
Mm-hmm.
um, and as a parent, I cannot imagine how challenging it is to manage like a young child's care, and like, if especially if you have another one. And
Yeah.
I saw that it was really hurtful to my parents to make those choices all the time, and I, knowing myself, I was like, I don't think I have the emotional bandwidth to,
Mm-hmm.
um and I have my own like neurodivergences and all of the stuff that makes it hard to take care of myself sometimes. um,
Mm-hmm.
and if I had a kid that needed support and needed um extra care, and I don't know how I would fare as a parent. It
Yeah.
would be really unfair to the child, most.
Yeah.
So I'm very cognizant of the fact that we have to assess our own capabilities of what is the most extreme situation that you could find yourself in, and can you cope. The bigger impact in my decision to be child free was, um, I would want to do my best, and my best would probably not suffice at that point.
And of course, having our own kids isn't the only way to have kids around. I have nieces and a nephew and friends' kids and neighbors. So,
There are many ways to be involved with children, and there will be children in your life.
yeah.
Have
Yeah.
friends, family, there will be kids. And there are ways to be involved as an aunt,
Mm-hmm.
as a teacher, neighbor, whichever way.
Yeah.
Um, and I can choose to do that anytime from
Yeah.
now for as long as I live.
big thank you to my guest, Aarti, for her bravery and honesty and openness. I hope it's helpful to you. Bad Mothers is written, produced, and edited by me, Monica Cardenas. I'd love it if you'd rate and review the show and get in touch with any feedback. You can find me on my Substack, and guess what? It's called Bad Mothers too.